The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display flickered to life. Kalara, the Zenthari ambassador, leaned forward in her crystalline seat, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with barely contained curiosity. Around the circular hall, representatives from 47 species waited with varying degrees of patience. "This emergency session," announced Overlord Thex, his chitinous mandibles clicking, "has been called to address a disturbing discovery." Antonio stood at the center of the chamber, his human frame appearing almost fragile compared to the towering aliens surrounding him. As Earth's diplomatic envoy, he had learned to project confidence despite the odds. Today, however, his calm demeanor masked a storm of emotions. "Ambassador Antonio," Thex continued, "you will explain why your species has violated Treaty Section 12, Subsection 4, the prohibition of Dreadnought-class vessels." Kalara's triple-jointed fingers tapped against her armrest. She had worked alongside Antonio for 3 standard cycles, and in that time humanity had proven to be resourceful, creative, and surprisingly peaceful. This accusation seemed incongruous with everything she knew about them. Antonio took a breath. "Overlord Thex, honored representatives, I stand before you not to deny the existence of what you've discovered, but to provide context that spans nearly 400 Earth years." The hologram shifted, displaying a massive structure hidden within the Kuiper Belt beyond Pluto. Even in the dim light of distant Sol, its scale was incomprehensible. The vessel dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen, 10 kilometers long, bristling with what appeared to be weapons systems, and surrounded by a defensive perimeter that had somehow evaded detection for centuries. Gasps and aggressive vocalizations erupted throughout the chamber. Kalara's skin flashed deep purple, the Zenthari expression of shock. "The UHSN Indomitable," Antonio said quietly, and the name seemed to carry weight that pressed down on everyone present. "Humanity's first and only supercarrier." "First and only?" roared Cormath, the Drachnian war chief. "That monstrosity could annihilate entire fleets. How dare you claim peaceful intentions while hiding such a weapon?" Antonio's jaw tightened. "Because it was never meant to be a weapon, Chief Cormath. It was meant to be an ark." The chamber quieted once more. Kalara watched Antonio carefully, noting the genuine pain in his eyes. 4 centuries ago," Antonio began, "humanity had just achieved faster-than-light capability. We were young, naive, and terribly alone. Our first deep space probes detected something that chilled us to our core. Evidence of a species-wide extinction event in the Andromeda sector. An entire civilization, billions of souls, erased by something we couldn't identify." He paused, letting the weight of that discovery settle. "Our scientists, our leaders, they all asked the same question. Could it happen to us? We had just learned we weren't alone in the universe, and our first evidence of alien life was their complete annihilation. Humanity responded the only way we knew how, with preparation and hope." The hologram zoomed in on the Indomitable, revealing its internal structure. Kalara's analytical mind worked rapidly, recognizing biospheres, agricultural zones, genetic repositories, and cryogenic facilities. "The Indomitable wasn't designed for war," Antonio continued. "It was designed to preserve humanity if the worst came to pass. Every cultural artifact, genetic sample, and recorded knowledge we possessed was stored within its hull. 10,000 humans could live aboard indefinitely, with the capacity to rebuild our entire civilization if Earth fell." "Then why the weapons?" demanded Thex. "Because an ark needs to survive long enough to matter," Antonio replied. "The armaments were purely defensive, and before you ask why we kept it secret, we were terrified. We had just joined a galactic community we didn't understand. We saw how quickly alliances shifted, how wars erupted over resources and territory. What if revealing our insurance policy made us a target? What if admitting our deepest fear that we might not survive was interpreted as weakness or paranoia?" Kalara stood, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Ambassador Antonio, I must ask, if this vessel has existed for 4 centuries, why reveal it now?" Antonio met her gaze, and she saw something there that made her skin pulse with empathy, profound relief mixed with vulnerability. "Because we don't need it anymore," he said simply. 374 years ago, we built the Indomitable in secret, convinced that extinction was always one catastrophe away. But over these centuries of cooperation, of friendship, of shared struggles and triumphs with all of you, humanity has learned something crucial. We're not alone. We don't have to bear the weight of survival in isolation. He gestured around the chamber. You've taught us that the galaxy, for all its dangers, is also filled with allies. Partners, friends. The Zenthari showed us biotechnology that revolutionized our medicine. The Krill taught us quantum engineering. The Voraks shared their history, showing us how cooperation prevents extinction, not isolation. Antonio's voice grew stronger. The Indomitable represents humanity's darkest fear, but keeping it secret represents our failure to trust. So we've decided to decommission it. Not destroy it, but transform it. We're proposing to convert it into a galactic archive and research station, open to all council species, a place where we can collectively preserve the knowledge and culture of every civilization, so that no species ever faces the terror of being forgotten. The chamber erupted in debate, but Kalara noticed something remarkable. The aggressive postures were softening. Even Cormath looked contemplative rather than hostile. Thex raised his primary limb for silence. This is unprecedented. The council will require time to deliberate. Of course, Antonio nodded. I understand this changes everything, but I hope it also proves something about humanity. Yes, we planned for the worst. Yes, we kept secrets. But when given the choice between isolation and trust, we chose trust. As the session adjourned, Kalara approached Antonio. Her skin glowed soft amber, warmth and approval in Zenthari expression. That was either very brave or very foolish, Antonio, she said. He smiled tiredly. Probably both. But keeping that secret was eating at me. At all of us. You know, Kalara said thoughtfully. The Zenthari have a saying, the strongest walls are those we choose to lower. I believe the council will see your proposal for what it is, not a threat, but a gift. 6 cycles later, the UHSN Indomitable officially became the Galactic Archive Station, staffed by researchers from 32 species. And when the inaugural ceremony commenced, Kalara stood beside Antonio, watching as humanity's monument to fear became the galaxy's symbol of hope. The universe had indeed shaken, not from the revelation of a weapon, but from the realization that even humanity's deepest fears could transform into bridges of cooperation. And somewhere in the vastness of space, 47 civilizations learned that the greatest strength wasn't in what you could hide, but in what you were brave enough to share. The end.